This is the Artist Entrepreneur Podcast. We are your hosts, Amanda Ritchie, Noah Dock, and me, Kerry Wee. We're three artists brought together by the love of circus and dance. Amanda from the world of Cirque du Soleil as an aerial soloist. Noah, our academic, and me from the commercial dance world. This is one of the greatest jobs in the world, but it comes with uncertainty. Each episode contains insight on how to pursue art-based businesses. We'll have a variety of guests and have lively weekly Discord. Tune in every week to hear our perspectives on the minefield that is the artist's way of life. What happens when you're traveling like that? Does everything get put on hold? Are you like on a laptop in cafes trying to get work done? Like what does it look like for you?
That's such a good question. I think it depends on the time of the year and what's going on. I really wish I could be fully remote and like work from anywhere in the world. That's sort of like one of my dream goals, is to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, I would argue that I do. And I think a lot of my friends would be like, what are you talking about? You're always traveling. You're never home. Like, you are a remote worker, even if you don't want to admit it. And to a certain extent, they're right. However, there are certain things that like pull me back to LA that I'm like required to be here, or certain like meetings or events or whatever it is. So what does it look like? Usually, well, I never put down, it's very hard to put down my phone or like go completely off grid. And like, there's always emails to respond to. There's always things going on. And then, yeah, sometimes it's sitting in cafes, sitting at the hotel, doing work. I'll always choose a cafe over my hotel.
Okay.
And because at least you're still out, right? And
yes.
Yeah, still taking phone calls, still writing emails, you can do a lot with your phone.
Oh, yeah. Does it take you out of the moment, though? Or is that the moment you have to do both because that's how you choose to live your life?
I'd say the moments where I don't want to be taken out of it, I actively work to make sure that I don't have to work during those times. Like while I was in Canada, I didn't have Wi-Fi for 4 days. And so I had to make sure that I was okay to do that.
Yes. You have to plan around.
Yeah.
100%. I was just in LA and I was working in my business more than on it. And man, I came home to San Antonio to like a stack of work editing. You know what I'm saying? Because I was teaching a lot.
Yeah.
I had the Amanda situation. Any thoughts on today?
Well, how was your trip?
I love LA. It was informative and educational for me to land there and have my authentic feelings become very... You're 21 years old? Oh my goodness. She grows up so fast. To like really just think about, oh, this is very obvious that I'm having this feeling. So I came back to LA and I had such an overwhelming feeling of home. And everyone I saw, it felt more like family than friends.
Yeah.
It felt so deep because everything here in San Antonio is so new. It is authentic and it's wonderful, but it's new. And everything there is, the relationships are 10 plus years with every single person. And even my students, it was wonderful, but I'm so glad I don't live there anymore. I really feel like, we just closed on a house. We actually closed on the house that we just bought the same day we landed because of the timing of the lender and everything.
Yeah.
And listeners, we bought a 3,000, I'll just say it on here so people kind of know the numbers. Like we just bought a 3,000 square foot house in San Antonio in a good neighborhood, in good driving distance from our jobs for $290,000. It's just like, it's possible here.
Yeah.
And so just being there, I really like the idea, and Asa does too, to pop in, see all the people at once, make all the money at once, and then go live somewhere else that's affordable. I really love that idea. So we're actually going to go back more. Not like super often, because it's exhausting to go and like work like crazy and then to come back to a full week of work. But like once every 6 months, I think we're going to go back home and just do exactly what we just did. I enjoyed all my favorite food on the same weekend. I never would have done that if I lived there, because, like I'm not going to eat out 5 times if I live there in a weekend. And we saw all of my friends. And I don't know about you, but I didn't really see a lot of my friends when I was living there. And and now you go and you do it all at once, and everybody's excited. They make an effort. I make an effort. So I really like this setup, this traveling in, and then having home base here, where we feel like we're actually saving some money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it feels like home.
Yeah,
100%.
I get that. I think about New York in a similar way, not in that it's home, but like I have a life in New York, or I had a life in New York, and like in going back every quarter or every few months or whatever it might be, how important that is to keep that life,
keep those relationships,
keep those relationships. Yeah. I don't work in New York anymore. But I'm always like, if I see a job or something that's in New York, I'm always like, ooh, that could be nice. Like the ability to go to and from and like use it a little bit. I'm all about it, because the opportunity to, not that I live somewhere inexpensive or that's more manageable in that way, and then go somewhere like New York, but that sort of experience, being able to go to either a home or a place to work for a little while and then come back, I think there's a lot of people who do that and they love that life.
Yeah, I like it a lot, and it matches our lifestyles. I just solidified a weekend of teaching at NECA in September for a 3-day silks immersion, and I don't know what it was. I didn't have to leave LA for all this stuff to open up to me, but that's what happened.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have my brain open up to it, and I put myself out there because I wasn't just like tied to this so tight of a teaching schedule like Amanda is, honestly. Yeah. Like it's kind of that same problem. So yeah, I'm loving this. I think I can have the best of both worlds, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, it's so funny. I've been having such similar conversations or thoughts in terms of like, where do you want to be? Where's home base? Is there a home base?
Yeah.
And playing with that, because I don't have an answer to that right now. I know I don't want it to be LA. Interesting.
Well, honestly, our hand got forced because I never would have picked San Antonio. But the more I learn about it, it's the perfect city for us because it's still budding in all ways. Like, not because like the weather's like my favorite or anything, or that, oh my God, I'm in love with Texas so much, but it's a city that's budding in a lot of ways. Like the real estate market hasn't yet, saturated. My industry hasn't saturated. Yeah. Have you been thinking, which way have you been thinking? Have you been thinking like a horizontal move that is equal to LA, or completely opposite?
I don't have that answer. I probably not a horizontal move in terms of like LA, New York, San Francisco,
Miami.
Yeah, San
Francisco, yeah.
Although Miami's a little bit different. I will say Miami's a little bit different. But California is, and I know you and I have had this conversation before, but California is so just awful. As a business owner, as anything. Like, we've really turned this beautiful, amazing place into hell to live in and work in and try and survive in.
And then it's on fire half the time.
Well, yeah, that too. But no, I'm a big fan of Nevada right now. I've thought about Vegas, but also I've thought about these places as not necessarily a place to live, but a place to invest in, whether that's time or property or businesses or,
Yes. Yes.
a work effort, whatever it is, into those places, because I think that there's opportunity for people who live there, but there's also opportunity for people who don't necessarily live there.
Who was I talking to? Was it Amanda? About how when you get to a certain point, I feel like we all moved to LA, or you were there already, but most of us transplants who are artists move there because the city is going to give us what other cities cannot. And that's what it gave me for so long. 2 decades it did that. And then there was a tipping point where I realized that being somewhere else was going to be more beneficial to my career.
Yeah.
It became obvious this year. Is that where you're at?
I don't think it has anything to do with career necessarily.
Okay.
And maybe that sort of brings me to the topic that I've been thinking of.
Please, I would love to hear it.
And I'm gonna phrase it one way, and then I'm gonna sort of explain it, which is the dream and living your dream, working towards the dream, or a combination of both.
Okay. In what context? In what context for you?
For me right now, I'm thinking about it in terms of what I want to be doing, how I will get there. And the question that I've sort of asked myself now is, well, is there a way to do both? And so I'm going to use an example. I love to travel. I love to travel. It's one of my favorite things in the world. That feeling of home that you were talking about in Los Angeles, I have sort of a weird feeling of home, which is like every time I walk into an airport.
Really? Oh, okay.
I'm immediately like put at ease. I'm immediately like, I'm here.
It feels like freedom to you.
Yeah. I'm like, here we go.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I love to travel. And so the idea of being able to travel full time is something that I really want to do. And so I sit and I ask myself, well, how do I accomplish the dream? How do I achieve the dream of being able to travel full time? And there's two answers to that question. One is I have a job or a career that requires me to travel full time. That's option one. And option two is I am successful in a different career enough that I then can travel full time on my own dime, doing whatever it is that I want, and I have that freedom. And so that's sort of a place that I've struggled with and thought about a lot of my life, which is I have this idea of I have this goal. I want to travel full time. I want to experience the world. Boom, that's it. How do I get there? And the way that I believe that I should get there, or the way that I've sort of approached it is, well, I need to be successful in a business so that I can make enough money so that then I can go travel. Which is a totally different viewpoint than, well, if I find a job that forces me to travel, I could travel full time. And I bring this up now, or I was thinking about this now specifically because I've had so many friends who have told me, and especially in this last this last bit of travel where I was sort of trying to engage our social media challenge a little bit and post every day that I was traveling and share my experience a little bit more. There were a lot of people that were really enjoying it and following the journey. And I've had people who have said to me, why don't you do a travel blog? Why don't you do social media as a traveler or whatever? And I look at that and I go, well, that just sounds impossible. It sounds so difficult. It sounds so hard to like gain that following, and there are so many people who are doing it, right? Like I feel like every day there's a new van lifer, new traveler, or new whatever that's starting to pop off on Instagram or social media. And, it comes to that dreamer mentality every once in a while of like, well, fuck it. Should I just leave everything and go try this and try to do both at the same time?
I mean, I would say go for it. I interviewed for another podcast this family that is a family, and they're a family of 5, 3 kids, and, a married couple. They don't have a home in the United States. They're American.
Yeah.
They just go from, Portugal to Argentina to London, and they do it's a lot of organizations, a lot of planning, but they offset it with the fact that they're not paying rent somewhere. They don't spend like they're on vacation.
Oh yeah, it's getting bigger and bigger. And to your question of like, how do you work when you're traveling? You make it work. If you're traveling and you need work, you make it work. But yeah, that was sort of my question or thought process that I was having this week / last week, which is, what's asking yourself, what's the dream?
Yeah.
How do you get to the dream? What's the process of getting to the dream? And is there a version where the two overlap? Have you felt that, or have you had that experience in your career, in your work, and what you do?
Well, let me probe you.
Okay.
Is that lifestyle the dream, or is the career or the business half and half with the lifestyle dream? Like, does one overshadow the other?
I don't know. Sometimes. Like, I think it depends. As always, I do a lot of different things. So there are certain ones that overlap in the right ways. Like, there are some dreams that I have of owning a cocktail bar, and that lifestyle of being in, of owning a cocktail bar and being in that space, those overlap. But the dream of traveling does not overlap with being in one place and owning a cocktail bar. That make sense?
No, it doesn't. I do feel like the social media aspect and the internet aspect would make this entire thing possible, though.
Oh,
because you could absolutely name your bar / event night and just do pop-ups all over the world, wherever you freaking decide. I mean, from my perspective, and I know it's a little bit of a privileged perspective to be like, to look at your life and say, go for it like that, because there's obviously downsides to, like, there's a lot to figure out. But when it comes to all the things that would tether you somewhere, you're kind of sans all of them, except for maybe your parents, right?
Yeah, yes and no.
Ish. I don't know about your romantic life, but like, you don't have kids currently. Do you have a pet? Do you have a dog?
I do have a dog.
You do have a dog. Okay, so you have that. I don't know. I think that's picture perfect timing for generally for you to decide to experience something like traveling permanently. I think in this day and age it's possible.
Totally.
And I would be excited for you. Yeah.
And I did it a lot doing social media management and content management, because it allows you could do it from anywhere. And it's one of the reasons why I've revamped my business, to be able to do that more and to do that again, because I see it as an opportunity to say, okay, whatever the dream is not to be a social media manager, right? The dream is not to have a big social media management or content management company. It's something I'm good at. It's something that I enjoy, but it's not the dream. However, it is something that could allow me to have the dream of being able to travel more often and all those things. And so that's where those two pieces come in. How do you get there versus what it is sometimes they're overlapped. Totally. I mean, I'll use me as an example before I ask you again, but like the dream of being a dance choreographer and working in the dance world is part of the work. That is part of the how you get there. That is part of the process. So much of when I was living in New York and when I was working and when I was teaching, none of it felt like work. It all feels like I'm already in the dream, right? Even if the dream is sometimes a nightmare.
Yeah, sometimes.
Which I know we can all relate to. Sometimes the dream is a nightmare.
Okay, to answer your question, for me, it's kind of flipped. The only reason I ever really wanted to be in LA was for the dance industry, for the entertainment industry. So from my perspective, as it gets more expensive, I don't personally understand why anybody would really want to be there so much if they were not needing one of the industries that can only be found there. Because it is just so hard to navigate. It's just like, it's a big fit, it's a big pond, huge pond. And so I was only ever there for the entertainment world. And after I realized that I could work more not being in Hollywood, I was very okay with leaving.
Yeah.
That being said, for me, it's I want to do the thing. I want to do the dancing. I want to do the auditioning. I was thinking about auditioning and booking a gig. And I think I got a little addicted to the dopamine rush of booking things. Because I had to get used to not doing that anymore, not having that. And it's not necessarily a healthy thing. The competitiveness, and then you get this rush, this like hormonal rush, I think, from like beating all those other people out and getting the job, of being in the audition circuit and being like on the cutting edge of things and like being in the pulse of things. It just was so addictive to me. And with Ariel now, I still think I'm like that. I think that's why I like doing a podcast, because I like to be in the conversation. I like to be relevant amongst the people who are doing it. It's exciting to me. Like, it's fun. Yeah. Like the traveling aspect. I love traveling as a dancer. But you know what you just said made me think that we are very opposite, because my authentic feeling, I was in Lebanon. I was in Beirut for a month on a contract. I was dancing for a show. And very close to our hotel, there was this, like, we were on the coast, and there's this cafe, and it was so idyllic. Like, there was rocks, and you can order a sandwich or a hookah. I don't hookah, but like in a glass of wine. And the water would just spray up all over the rocks, and the sun was setting on Beirut. What, Bean?
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about when I traveled, when I was dancing, and I was in a different country.
When I with you?
No, you weren't born yet, my love.
What?
I know. What life did I have before you is what she wants to know. And I recognized, half my brain was like, I will never forget this moment. And I sat at that cafe many times because we were there for a month. But no, I was homesick. At the same time. Like, I like the idea of it more than I actually like it. Because, when you're on a gig, sometimes you're lonely. If you're not I happen to be on the gig with my friends, but, sometimes you're lonely. You don't have all your stuff. You're living out of a suitcase. So that makes me know that I'm kind of the opposite of what you're talking about.
Well, that's a whole, and that's a whole other conversation, the idea of it versus it.
Yeah, maybe.
There's so many people who love the idea of travel, or the idea of starting a business, or the idea of certain work or whatever, and then they're there and they go, "This fucking sucks." There's so much of that, and I've said this before, and I know it's come up a little bit. Like, I love the idea of owning a cocktail bar. Like, I love the idea of it. And I've done this, this thing at my house. I've managed a bar up in Mammoth. I am now part of a bar in Los Angeles and helping to revamp and bring it to some new life. And I started that literally yesterday.
I was going to say, when did we not hear about this? Because it's brand new news.
Did I not talk about it yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. Well, this is new news then.
Yeah.
I'm managing and working with a bar in Los Angeles, and it's really interesting. It's been around since 2003, 2002, and it is a hip hop staple of Los Angeles. It has had famous hip hop artists, famous musical artists, famous comedians who have come in and hung out there and like spent time there in the early 2000s, and it's a really cool spot, and it hasn't changed with the times. It hasn't updated. It hasn't grown in ways that I believe that it should or that it can. And they've brought me on to see how we can further develop this place and expand it and bring it into the next iteration of what it can be. And I brought it up to some mentors, and they just said, "What do you think of this? You've always wanted to own a bar and run a bar and create something like this. Here's your opportunity with essentially no skin in the game, except you got to use your time, you got to use your energy. You don't know how much money you'll make yet, but if ever there was a chance to find out if this is something that you really want to do or you really can do, this is it." And I think that that's rare. It's rare that we get the opportunity to taste or try the thing that it is that we think we want.
Yes, without spending our own money. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really rare to do that. And I'm really excited by it. I'm really hopeful by it. I think it can be fucking awesome. But I think that I think it's a challenge in our lives, especially for creative people, especially for people who are entrepreneurial, to say, okay, this is a thing that I want to do. And then for it to be a thing that you really enjoy doing. You don't know the answer until you jump in and do it.
So you're going to take advantage of this, which is awesome. And it's not a long-term commitment. Am I right?
I mean, no, but I want it to be,
It is the idea of kind of living the dream. What is the dream? Which jobs are going to give you that more specifically, like in your daily life? And I really do resonate with this idea of liking the idea of something more than the actual thing. Touring was the biggest thing for me because I wanted it so bad. But when I was on it, I just want to go home.
Yeah.
Touring's not that exciting when you're on it. Like hotel rooms, you're by yourself. It's a little bit lonely. There's always politics with who you're with on a tour. How about you? What do you think that you like the idea of it more than the thing?
I don't know. I think I've enjoyed fairly everything. I think there's certain things that I've done that it's not necessarily I haven't enjoyed, but it wasn't going to take me to where I wanted to go, even though I loved it. Working at Ski Patrol in Mammoth, that's like a job that I always wanted, always thought would be super cool and totally amazing. And I had it, and I enjoyed it, and I loved it, but I knew it wasn't going to propel me to the place that I wanted to be in my life, in my work, financially, creatively. It wasn't going to have those things.
Would you want to do that when you settle down? Could you do that as an older person or no?
Yeah, you can do it as an older person, but I think it's different. I think it's just different. It's something I'd love to be involved in, but I don't know if it's something I could do all the time. That's another piece of this is it something you want? When you get it, is it something you enjoy?
Yep.
And is it something that will propel you towards the dream? Whatever your dream is, whatever that goal is, wherever it is that you want to go. And some of it, I feel like this goes back to our balance conversation. Some of it can and some of it maybe won't. Like, my dream is to live in the mountains. My dream is one of the dreams, obviously, to travel. Yeah. One of the dreams is to be in the mountains and live in that small community and to have that. And working on Ski Patrol gave me that dream. I had that dream. I had accomplished that dream, but it wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't enough, because I don't think that's the right way of phrasing it. I don't think that gives it enough, recognition as it deserves, but it wasn't it didn't feel like the end yet. It didn't feel like I was there.
Yeah. Okay, two things are in my mind, and they could be complete separate podcasts because it's such a big question. Number one, I moved here, and what I found in the soul of the city that I'm feeling, and I can't taste or touch it. LA is a place that people are reaching so high. Everybody I know reaches so high for whatever it is. It is a dreamer mentality town, at least in the circles that I run in LA. I live here. I think that's the reason why it's not as saturated when it comes to what I do and all these things, because it is not the same. People don't think that things are possible in the same way. Mm. It's where they live in their mind. It's way more normal. It doesn't bother me, but I notice it. And then number two, what I've always struggled with since I was right out of college is this idea of opportunity cost. What do I give up for spending time on this one thing? And it has bothered me forever, because I feel like most of the things that we try to do, it's better if you do it when you're young. There's like a sweet spot of 20 or 30 years that it's better if you do those things. Number one, having a family. It's usually better if you start early. I got best of both worlds because I got lucky and could have a baby at 42. But when it came to like the other career that I almost wanted, that I did want, but the arts won out, I wanted to go into politics. And it still plagues me that I didn't do it, because people are like, well, you could do it later. But can you? Because if you want to work in the White House, if you want to work for a congressman, they'll pay you $20,000 a year and you'll be working 80 hours a week. Can you do that after a full career and you're used to a certain lifestyle and you have a family? I don't know. So I struggle with that. Like, you got to kind of pick.
I mean, you're talking to the person who can't pick. Like, I feel like if our listeners have learned anything about me, it's that I can't pick. I do so many different things that make no logical sense together. I mean, the joke that I've made for like, God, I don't even know how long now, is that my perfect career is to run a circus company in the mountains that is specifically for motorcycle acrobats that has a cocktail bar in it. Like that, and like, it's ridiculous. It's an insane thing. And yes, opportunity cost. I mean, and you, of all people, and dancers especially, understand the concept of opportunity cost.
Yeah, you just don't have very much time. Like, you have 10, 15 years.
Right. Your body is this for this long.
Yep.
I mean, there's and from the circus perspective, I mean, these performers who come from the Olympics, like, they're 12 years old. They're not actually 12 years old.
Yeah, but they're young.
They might as well be 12 years old.
Yes.
Because that's when you can do those things. And it's so rare that there's somebody who is much older, yes, who's doing that sort of, I mean, who's the football player? Not that I know anything about sports.
Manning.
Tom Brady?
Yeah, Tom Brady.
Manning. You know, he's like the oldest guy. He was the oldest guy on there. And there was one of him, right? Nobody else was like that. There's such an opportunity cost. And I think it's really hard I know it's really hard for me to sacrifice any opportunity. It's really, I struggle with that a lot. I don't have a good solution for it at all. I'm the worst person to ask.
Come on. Okay, I know. This is really good birth control for Noah. Come on. There's a lot of people that struggle with the opposite, and I see that living somewhere that's not LA, because I was just surrounded by people who were just like this, and you're one of the biggest examples of this in my life, where you really do want to do everything, and you do your hardest to like just wrap your hands around every opportunity that you have. I just have sympathy and empathy for that, because I didn't have so many small projects that I wanted to do. I almost thought about it as like in the multiverse, a version of Kerry on another planet is living that full dream and doing it to its farthest extent. And I want to like hang out with that version of me sometimes, because the idea of picking one was wrenching, at least now in my age here, thinking about it. It wrenches me sometimes. But I know I identify as an artist, and that is always gonna win. So I come to terms with it.
Well, and I think it's a really, only time will tell, right? Like only time will tell if picking one was the right answer, or a good, not the right answer, but a good answer or a good decision, or if trying to do everything or trying to do all of it was the right answer as well. I mean, you never know. You never know. And I think for some people, it's really hard to pick one thing. It's really hard.
Yeah, and your example of the one of the dreams is to own a cocktail bar. That specific dream goes so contrary to your other dreams, because from what I know, if you own a bar, doesn't matter where, you are there at the end of the night counting the money. That's what you're doing at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's not just living in one place, it's like having a night life, which I don't think bothers you at all necessarily. But it does run counter to the idea of being a world traveler and not having a home. It's like exactly the opposite.
Right. It's I spent this past week with a friend of mine who's a business owner. He owns property. I talked to him about his life and his life story and how he got to where he is. He's not only a property owner, but he owns the businesses within those properties. He has had a crazy experience, and he said to me, I was lucky a lot. I got really lucky in finding opportunities, in being in the right place at the right time, but also I took every opportunity. I took every chance. If there was a lottery for a condo building, or the opportunity to buy a condo building, I submitted for it. If there was a business that was coming for sale, or there was a manager position opening up at something that I could, sort of understand, I'd go for it. And it all ended up working out, and it all led him to the decisions that he made and to the success that he's found. And even in this guy, who's a successful guy, who, by all accounts, if you look at his life, he's got a great and successful life. Even then, he still looked at me and he said, but I still made a ton of mistakes. I still wish that I hadn't sold that property and kept that. And for every big win there's something in that win that was like, oh man, I should have done that. I should have done that instead. That's that alternate reality. That's that opportunity cost to a certain extent, that like, oh man, well, I could have done this, or I should have done that, or I could have picked differently. For me, at least, I try to keep plugging on. I try to take every opportunity that I can. I try to see what'll happen. And I have plenty of friends who look at me and they go, you got to pick one thing. You got to do one thing and put 100% effort towards it. And I have other people who say, take whatever you can get and work towards whatever you can get.
I mean, I just love watching this ride, and I actually think it's amazing that we'll have like a podcast, but the story of it.
Right.
I think that it's interesting to listen to business podcasts where the person has made it, like they're on the top. They're the CEO, they've made the billions, and they're just giving advice now, right? But it's a different thing to be witness. So I'm witness to your process of figuring out where you want to put your time. I don't think there's a right answer either. The other thing that, I was telling you I had an epiphany about a month ago about my dance career and like really embracing all the decisions I've made. When I was first really having the issue all these years, it was kind of all based on like, oh, that one decision to leave that job in DC when I was 23 years old and move out to LA. And after that, I was in. But it's not true. I could have left at any time. I didn't have to put 24 years into that city and into a career. I made that choice every single day. And so for so long, if I didn't make that one decision, I wouldn't have spent the rest of the 24 years there. That's so silly that I thought about it in such a binary way, that it was like I either choose this or chose that. I could have made different choices all along the way. The problem is I can't edit her out of my track. I can edit her out of your track. Like, that's so silly for me to have thought about it as like it was one, in my mind, irresponsible choice or kind of like risky choice that I made. Really, the answer is that I made that same risky choice about thousands of times. Every single time I decided to stay, and every single gig that I did that launched me further into that career, and taking on Ariel, which launched me further into a circus world, which is even less established than the dance world. You know what I'm saying? I think it's great that you make these like micro decisions all the time. Like, you just decided to help bring a bar back to life, and the amount of skill set that you're going to learn from that. I think that I've always thought with you, as your businesses grow, maybe Red Flags does take off and you're just going to have employees. That's the bottom line. You're not going to try to do what me and Amanda are doing, which is have, like a party of one doing everything. How we're trying to scale ourselves. The episode that we put out, when you were in Tel Aviv, was about scaling our online businesses and like duplicating ourselves so that we can scale and make money when we're not really doing it at all. Like, it's just making money on the internet. I don't disagree or agree with any of your friends. I feel like, what is that movie? The one with Matt Damon and where like there's this invisible curtain where like somebody's pulling all the threads. Like, one decision leads down the path.
Yes, it's one of my favorite
movies. What is this movie
ever.
called? With Emily Blunt.
The Adjustment Bureau.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite movies ever.
That's what I'm thinking when I think of you. Like, it's not one decision. It's like all these decisions change the path, and they're all meant to be. They're all meant to be, and maybe that is the whole map, that it's supposed to zigzag and zigzag for you, because that's authentically what you want. Oh, she's dying. Noah, do you have closing thoughts for us? And I'll mute myself so we don't have to. So we'll have a good ending to this episode.
My closing thoughts are that it's funny you use the word authentic, and I recently was meeting with somebody and I was venting and I was talking about all of these like push pull, like, man, I just have this desire to travel the world, but I also have this desire to like build a house in the mountains and never leave it. And like, there's all these things. And they said to me, they were like, I think that you're just being authentically you, and that's okay. It's okay if that, like, your push and pull is part of who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. It's exciting to watch too. And I hate the word authentic because we use it too much, but like I wish we had a different word, but that is the truth.
Oh, I never use the word authentic, so I don't hear it that often. But what I really also agree with you is something and probably one of the reasons why I agreed to do this podcast is that it is not only us shooting the shit, but it's us shooting the shit from where we are now, not from where we will be. It would be magic in 10 years or 20 years or whatever to look back and we're doing a podcast on the advice that we're giving because all three of us became hugely successful and like that's it. But I agree with you that this is almost more beneficial because it's the story, it's the middle part, it's the thing that I ask every single successful person: how'd you get here? I understand that you're here.
It's the interesting part. It's the
interesting
struggle. And can I tell you, oh my God, she's dying. Can I tell you how much, and I did not see this coming, how much doing this podcast has shifted my work. It has shifted the way I approach my businesses. It has given me a partner without having a partner.
Yeah.
Because you guys are it's a sounding board. It's consistent. I trust you guys. You have different points of view. It turns on parts of my brain. Me and Amanda, we had this episode about scaling our businesses. And since then, it actually helped answer one of my questions I had for myself about teacher training.
Yeah.
So anyways, put a button on it. And then I'm going to put this girl out of her misery and give her some food.
That's it. That's all I got. I think it's cool to see the process because there's so many times where I ask a successful entrepreneur, like, how'd you get here? And they say, well, I did this, and then some things happened in between, and then I ended up, and I'm like, okay, what were the things that happened in between? Tell me that part.
Yeah, because those are the things that help us. You know, like what is the struggle?
Those are the important parts.
Yeah, those are the important parts.
And I think that, part of this is I don't have the answers,
yeah.
And we don't have the answers. And the idea that sometimes just having the goal or the dream that we talked about is enough. And figuring out whether you're going to work in that goal, in that dream, or work towards that goal or towards that dream, that is all part of the ebb and flow of how you find success and how you accept it. Is it success to you, or is it just another step in the wheel?
For our intro for this podcast, I had written the tagline, and I didn't think about it too much. But right before we start talking in the podcast, it always says, the minefield, that is the artist's way of life. And the more I think about it, it is the thesis. It is the thesis. This is our way of life, and how are we doing it? Because for each of us, okay, all right, you want to say goodbye to Noah? It's okay. We can put this one down because we're already an hour in. I have to edit some of it out anyway because it's getting long. Okay, here.
Hi, Bean.
Bye.
Oh, she's so miserable.
Bean, what's going on today? You just tired today?
All right, Noah, we missed you.
Missed you.
Thank you so much for tuning in. You can find Amanda Ritchie at Grounded in Flight on Instagram and at Noah Doc on Instagram, as well as Red Flags app. And me, Kerry Wee, you can find at wrapyourheadaroundsilks.com. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. We have so much more coming at you, including guests that are in this art world, that are blazing their way through new businesses, and just more banter from us. Thank you for listening. This is The Artist Entrepreneur.